Raw took place tonight in Dallas, Texas. Now, before I get into this review, I wanted to mention that today would have been the 90th birthday of Bruno Sammartino, who passed away in 2018. You know, I remember recording a video paying tribute to Bruno, and that was the first time I've ever done that for a deceased wrestler. So his legacy is remarkable. Still to this day, the longest reigning champion, world champion, in WWF / WWF / WWE history. So rest in peace, Bruno. Would have been 90 years old today. Also had to mention that this was probably the biggest news going into this show, which really didn't have much to do with the show because the guy's never even used on SmackDown. But Santos Escobar is no longer with WWE. They offered him a new contract. He decided not to resign. So by midnight, and that's going to be less than a half hour by the time I'm recording this video, he is no longer with the WWE. He just didn't have a lot of charisma. That was his issue. That's why he never really got over. He can say they didn't give him any opportunities. Maybe he really, his group, Legado del Fantasma, really wasn't featured much, especially after they released Elektra Lopez earlier this year, I think after Royal Rumble. And that told you right there, they really don't see too much with them. When they split him up from the LWO, he lost the feud with Ray, and he really just didn't do too much. So, yeah, I mean, people can say, I'm sure he thinks he didn't get a lot of opportunities with the company. They got no reaction, didn't have any charisma, got no reaction from the fans, and that's why, really, he probably decided not to stay with the company. Now, Raw tonight opened with the OTC, Roman Reigns, coming out to a big pop. And when he came into the ring, I had to mention this because there was a very visible Meltzer Fears fact sign right behind Roman. It was on the hard camera. I think WWE put that out there intentionally. That was good by them. That definitely gave me a good laugh. So Paul Heyman and Bronson Reed interrupt Roman Reigns. They bring up Roman Reigns being stretchered out of Clash in Paris. Then they bring up Alpha and Sika, the Wild Samoans, Roman's father Sika and his uncle Alpha. And Roman challenges them to a fight because that's what his father would do. Now, Heyman announces that there's going to be an Australian street fight at Crown Jewel. And the way he was saying, I thought, okay, for sure, we're going to get a stretcher match because he's talking about how Roman Reigns was sent out on a stretcher. He's never had that before. We're getting a stretcher match at Crown Jewel. Makes perfect sense. Well, I guess that's not what they're doing. They're doing an Australian street fight. I don't get this. I think they could have done a stretcher match. Would have made more sense. But that's what we're getting. Australian street fight. What are they going to do? Hit each other with a toy kangaroo or something? I don't know. They're going to do bungee jumps? I don't know. But eventually Roman went after him, and he hit him with 2 Superman punches. Got the better of Bronson Reed as security held them back. The way this ended, I thought, Bronson's probably going to win on Saturday. But I could be wrong. We see CM Punk arriving, and then we see Lyra Valkyria and then Io Sky arriving in Dallas for the show tonight. So backstage, Asuka was yelling at Adam Pearce to make a match official, and we assume that this is going to be a match that involves Asuka. That's not what happened here, as he finally agrees to it, and then when Kairi Sane walks in, Asuka tells her that she's going to be facing Io Sky tonight. So we get the battle of Io Sky and Kairi Sane, 2 real-life best friends. And Kairi is crying about it, and then Asuka just slaps Kairi. And this was actually a well-done segment. Asuka's been great since she's come back. I have really been enjoying her work. She's been so entertaining in this role. So we see Becky Lynch coming out next. And then we get Becky Lynch and Maxine Dupree. And definitely the biggest surprise of the night. Was not expecting this to be as good as it was. Fans are really into it. I'm just not a fan of Maxine. I don't take her seriously. She was still extremely sloppy here. She doesn't look like a wrestler. She looks like a model. I just feel like when I see Maxine Dupree, I'm thinking, we're past this stuff. We don't want to see women who are just models learning to wrestle. And that's what we get from her. She's not a natural wrestler. She's not a natural athlete, period. She's just this tall, lanky woman who's trying to wrestle, and it just doesn't look natural to her, and it looks awkward, it looks clunky. She's not a natural athlete. She shouldn't be in the ring, and it looks bad. But they did have a lot of hope spots. I'm sure they practiced this match 15 times at the Performance Center, so that definitely helped. But the fans got into it. There was a lot of hope spots. I thought the match went downhill near the end. Becky's standing on the announce booth getting herself counted out like an absolute fool. The ending was awful, but the match was really exciting for a lot of it. And Maxine sells it like she won the Women's Royal Rumble, the way she's running up the ramp after the match. So Roman Reigns walks backstage. He talks to the Usos. They tease tension between Jay and Jimmy, and also Roman and Jimmy, and even Roman and Jay to an extent. Bayley is hyping up Lyra Valkyria and Gorilla before her match. She wants to accompany her to ringside. Lyra agrees, and we get Lyra Valkyria with Bayley in her corner against Roxanne Perez, with Raquel Rodriguez in her corner. So Bayley was definitely entertaining here. She does the woo thing with Lyra on the steps. It was actually kind of funny, and the fans were playing along. So Raquel kept getting involved. Eventually, Roxanne Perez hits a tornado DDT. Then she hits the pop rocks on Lyra Valkyria and gets the win. She pins Lyra thanks to Raquel's interference. Bayley's yelling at Lyra after the match, so they're continuing to advance that storyline. I don't know really what it is. But I think a lot of Roxanne's fans are going to be happy because she's been getting pinned a lot, so she finally got a win here. So I think our fans are definitely going to be happy, and she pins Lyra. They definitely had the storied history. She pinned her to win the NXT Women's Championship a couple years ago now at the, or actually no, about a year and a half ago at the Philadelphia Takeover, or not the Takeover, the Philadelphia Stand and Deliver show. So she pins Lyra again here. Actually, I think in that match she submitted Lyra. Anyway, we have Jackie Redmond doing a very good job, I have to say, narrating a John Cena and AJ Styles video package. Then Jackie Redmond appears on screen and interviews AJ Styles, but they were quickly interrupted by the Judgment Day, sets up a 6-man tag match later in the night. We see CM Punk walking backstage, heading to the ring. We get AJ Styles and Dragon Lee trying to recruit Penta to be their tag partner tonight. Then we go to Bayley and Lyra. We immediately transition to them fighting with Roxanne and Raquel, and Bayley and Lyra laid them out. So I guess they're going to continue their feud. They show celebrities in the crowd, including the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders here in Dallas. Of course, makes sense to promote the Cowboys cheerleaders in Dallas. So CM Punk was out next, gets a big pop. He sings the Dallas Stars song, the hockey team. He says he will defeat Seth Rollins to win the World Heavyweight Championship. LA Knight interrupts him. They trade insults. They both want the belt. Jey Uso comes out next. He goes back and forth with LA Knight. Then Jimmy Uso comes out, and then Jey super kicks LA Knight. Punk calls Jey Uso Little Roman. Jimmy stops Jey from attacking Punk, and then Punk punches out Jey, and then Jimmy super kicks Punk. And the Usos stand tall. That sets up a random tag match later in the night, which would be the main event. Then we go to Io Sky and Kairi Sane. This was a dream match for many of us. It was a super fast-paced match to start. Then the scariest part of the whole night was when Kairi Sane hits an Alabama slam onto Io Sky, onto the apron, and it looked so nasty. Io could have had her head split open. It looked really scary. And Kairi takes control of the match for a while, and the fans, some of them, I don't know why they did this, a whole bunch of fans start doing the Firefly Bray Wyatt gimmick with their phones. They have the lights on for their phones. I'm thinking, why? Are you that bored? It wasn't the whole fans. It was just a few of them. But it was really noticeable because it's really distracting when you see the camera light lit up. So eventually Kairi got the heat for a while. Io Sky makes her comeback. And then eventually Kairi Sane gets the win after she has Io rolled up in a pin. And I think it's a bridge, and then Asuka grabs Kairi's arms to give her leverage over Io Sky, and it allows Kairi Sane to pin Io Sky, and she gets the win. Rhea Ripley was not on the show as she's doing promotional material down in Australia, And seeing that EO lost, I would not give Asuka and Kairi a good chance to win on Saturday. I actually think that's the lock of the night. And there's this show is not too predictable. It was actually pretty predictable, but I think that's one of the clear locks of the night. So we have a Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins video package. This was the second part, and this was focusing them on allies. They recap what happened at WrestleMania 39 with Roman cheating to beat Cody, and then they go to the next year, WrestleMania 40, where Seth acts as Cody's shield. Cody winning the title. And I'm thinking, you know what, those are two great WrestleManias. WrestleMania 39 was great, WrestleMania 40 was great. This year's WrestleMania 41, sucked. So I'm glad we didn't have to see this year's WrestleMania. But this was well done, and then they go to how the situation is today. And I thought they did a very good job with this video package. Backstage, Becky Lynch is mad in the Vision's locker room. She's with Seth and Paul Heyman, who are both there. She says she's not going to Perth. And then Rollins tells Heyman he has to win. He's 0-3 against Cody. That's the big issue. He makes Heyman tell him the consequences of losing to Cody. And then he makes Heyman tell him the consequences for Heyman if Seth loses to Cody. And it was really well done. In many ways, this reminded me of the Bloodline, some of the drama they had when it was really hot. This was actually a really good segment here. And you just know Paul did a great job. You can tell this was all Heyman. I don't give Rollins any credit. Heyman has full credit here, in my opinion. I don't give Rollins anything here. This was all Heyman. They did a very good job. I don't like the vision. I don't like the storyline. I don't like Seth Rollins as the top guy. I think he's boring. He has no charisma, but this was a really well done segment, and I think it's pretty obvious Brock Lesnar is going to appear on Saturday at Crown Jewel in Australia. Now, it is a long flight for Brock. He's in Canada, so going from there to Australia, wow, that's definitely a long flight. I don't think he wants to fly there, but I do think he'll make an appearance, and I think he's going to be part of the vision for the War Games match. But I think Brock's going to help Seth beat Cody. So backstage, Jay is yelling at Jimmy, and Roman is there, and Jimmy is mad at Roman, and Roman tells Jimmy to get out of Jay's way. They're building tension again. It's just, I don't know. I feel like I've already seen this storyline play out 2 years ago when they did the Usos and Bloodline Civil War, and then they split the Usos. I think I've seen this stuff before. So we go to AJ Styles, Dragon Lee, and Penta against Dominic Mysterio, Finn Balor, and JD McDonough. AJ got the win when he pinned JD McDonough after a Styles clash. After the match, AJ gets up on the announce booth and says that him and John Cena are going to leave it all on the line for Crown Jewel. So, there's no build-up. There's no rivalry here. But, they did a fine job here just hyping the match a bit. The announcers preview Crown Jewel. We see LA Knight warming up backstage. Punk says neither of them want this match. LA Knight tells them not to get pinned. They show the Usos making their entrance, and they're doing the Yeet with Jay's Yeet. They preview next week's show, and then we go to the main event, the Usos against CM Punk and LA Knight. LA Knight tags himself in the match after CM Punk hits the go to sleep on Jay. LA Knight then pins Jay Uso, so for once, LA Knight is not pinned, but he does get the pin on Jay Uso. Him and Punk win, and they're building up a feud with Punk and LA Knight, while simultaneously continuing the feud with LA Knight and Jay Uso. Then they're also building, Jay Uso and Jimmy Uso, then Jay Uso and Roman and Jimmy Uso. So there's a million storylines, it feels like, that's going on here, but I thought for the most part Raw was actually pretty good tonight. So I enjoyed the show tonight from Dallas, and we'll see what happens this week as WWE goes down. Excuse me, I said that wrong. As WWE goes down under for Crown Jewel.